Yes, yes, yes. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Inside the Walls podcast. I am your host, Jim Renier. Alongside me is my partner in crime, halfway across the country in Omaha, Nebraska. His name is Matt Patton. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, hey, I'm doing well. How are you tonight, Jim?
Well, all of a sudden, our internet started being delayed, so that happens. Technology. Again, ladies and gentlemen, episode 137. This is a prediction show for the NAL. We're going to do a little bit of a little recap of the preseason games that we just had this past weekend. We'll do something different than usual for our prediction shows. We're going to have a little fun with different type of categories. We will select certain teams in each category, and then we'll do the pick 'em for the 3 games this weekend for week 1 action of the NAL, including the preseason game between the Tri-City Tritons and the Omaha Beef on Sunday afternoon. Remember us to follow us on all social media platforms at NWallsPod, at Inside the Walls Podcast. Also follow us on NAL.com or NationalArenaLeague.com, and also follow us um, on Rumble. We're on Rumble now, and we're on Caffeine TV. So we have multiple streaming sites. So if you see my beautiful face, which is not really beautiful, I'm just saying it's my beautiful face, you can follow us on any of those platforms. Just put Inside the Walls Podcast or Inside the Walls Network, and you'll find us on any of your platforms that you listen to us on. How's the week going, Matt?
Yeah, it's a great week. It's game week here in Omaha, so we're excited for that. But yeah, it's been a good week. So
Good week. This past weekend, we had 3 preseason games around the National Arena League. The Sioux City Bandits, Colorado Spartans, and the Ohio Horsemen all played roughly. All 3 did play a semi-pro team outdoors. Some of them were 8-man teams. Some were actually full 11-on-11. There were some unique matchups, and there's some uh, lopsided scores. You kind of expect that between a team that's used to playing outdoors goes indoors. You got to learn the rules probably within a week, depending on how their schedules are compared to our teams. But what stood out to you this week out of the 3 teams that played that caught your eye?
yeah, I think what stood out to me the most was the amount of talent that we saw on the field, particularly in Colorado. With that coaching staff, and we'll get into that a little bit later. We knew that they were going to have some talented guys in their roster, but just the amount of talent that I saw on the field for Colorado was very very pleasing to see from an indoor football standpoint. But man, I was just excited to have indoor games on my TV. Man, it was awesome.
For me, get the joy back-to-back games on Saturday. Had a later kickoff on Sunday. But one thing I have to say about the 3 games, it's nice to actually not have to talk about the off season. We're actually talking about what's being played on the field. So we'll get to, as the season progresses, we'll see these teams involved as the season moves on. So I'm pretty excited about that. Um, and it's good sometimes. Like it's hard to cover this sport. Me and you know this, Matt. You with the Omaha Beef, me with the Sharks, and us here with Inside the Walls. It's hard to cover an industry where it seems like every single week something else happens, and it's like, oh, hey, can we just get to the football games? Can we just get to the play on the field? And we finally got that. We had 3 lopsided scores this past weekend, but we finally got to see toe hit leather, and we got to see some. I'm impressed by the attendance of all 3 venues. I saw some of the extra camera work that was in Colorado. They had a good crowd there. That made me go, okay, I like what's going on in Colorado. Idaho had a great crowd. And of course, Sioux City doesn't disappoint. But yeah, as the season start last week, it's just happy. I'm good. I'm happy to have football back. Other leagues kick off this week as well. Um, I'm glad that the indoor game, when people say the NFL season is over, football's over. Not me. For us, it's like great. Our season starts, so we got to get the work starting.
Right.
Uh, but of course, to the fans out there, remember to like, subscribe, comment, share. Um, put your comments in this episode of what you liked about the opening weekend. Do know there are some other things or some questions that we'll may get in the post. but we fully expect those, and we're not going to talk about those. We're going to talk about the product and the game on the field because we have three big games this weekend. One in Sioux City, of course, when they're hosting the Oklahoma Flying Aces. Idaho takes on Carolina this Saturday as well. And Sunday afternoon, got the matinee in lovely Omaha, where Tri City takes on the Omaha Beef. First off, let's get to the first game I want to talk about, and that is the game in Sioux City. And as you know, ladies and gentlemen, the lopsided scores as there is 49-14 over the Minnesota Warriors. Props to Minnesota or Minneapolis Warriors, excuse me. Um, Props to your logo. That's actually a pretty killer logo. That's one thing I was impressed about. But one thing I want to say about Sioux City is that what a shock. They're very talented. They're very deep, and you can tell throughout the game they were, in my just overall observation, because when the game kicked off, we didn't have the updated rosters on hand because they just got recently updated on the website. I looked at this game and go, well, I can see where they're trying to put the new guys in, see if they can fit the system, and you can see where the veterans, they were only there for maybe a possession or two, or a little. They were put in type of situations, but they were in the game for the whole time. Sioux City's very loaded, and we'll talk about them later in the episode how loaded they are and how they can be a determining factor into the season. But one thing, observation of Sioux City in this game is that I love their quarterback play. Both guys looked on the money, and I look at that defense, they're going to be an issue all season long, especially on defensive side, even though with the new guys coming in. And of course, you can't really judge them based on who they played. That's going to be hard when you look at these games, especially in the preseason. That's why we won't break it down fully, because when these games kicked off, you're looking at the roster and go, who's that number? That number's not on the roster. And then you realize, oh, that's not the roster from this year. It's from last year. But overall, I look at Sioux City and how they're playing. It just seems like the same old Sioux City Bandits that we've known for years, especially for you, Matt. They're your arch rival from up north. But they seem like from the first preseason game, they look like they're going to be a problem in the NAL this year.
Yeah, Sioux City has always got a lot of talent. Coach Strobing up there in Sioux City, just he seems to get guys that that love the system there and that know the system. But I mean, they got the usual suspects. You got Xavier Span on the secondary. You got Mintz there. That's just terror in the linebacking core. And then you got the usual suspects on offense too with Prohaska. You mentioned some of their veterans didn't play very much. I think Prohaska only played like the first quarter. I think he had like 3 carries in the first quarter, and that was it the entire game. So they were really running out some different looks at running back and that kind of thing. But yeah, the thing that stood out to me the most about Sioux City is just how they're talented again. I mean, and they're talented everywhere. It's not just, Bruno and Prohaska and Span and Mintz. It's, those guys, and it's, Tyler Lowenstein or even Joshua Hollins, who we saw play quarterback a little bit for him. I mean, they're a very talented ball club, and they're going to give, everybody in the National Arena League fits this season. I just know that they're going to be out there to play hard and to give it their all and do everything they can to be a contender within the league this year. So,
well, the positive things you can see out of this game is, from what we've seen, no major injuries, maybe some nicks and bruises, but nothing big, and that's always a good thing for both teams, especially in the game that's considered. You can say it's a meaningless game, but for them, it's not. A lot of these guys are playing for jobs. But it's nice that in all 3 games you didn't see any major injuries. So positive to move forward into the next week. And the other game on that same day was the Idaho Horsemen taking on the Desert Sentinels. Right? Is that the Desert? Yeah, I
I
think so.
think so. Yeah.
I know. I know it's the Sentinels. First observation, this game was not even on the game itself. It was their color commentary, Ryan Riggs. If you're watching this, sir, I'm going to give you one of the massive props of all massive props. I was watching your stream, and I literally thought I was watching a game that Pat McAfee was covering, because you had the same go-tos what Pat McAfee does all the time when he does sports. Want to say props to that. You had a lot of energy, and hopefully you do more games because even though the game was one sided, I really enjoyed listening to your game because apparently everyone on Idaho to Riggs is a dog, is a baller, and is a beast. That's like the whole entire game. So he's a baller, he's a beast, he's a dog. I'm like, am I listening to Pat McAfee here? Because it sounds just like him. But overall, the game performance, Idaho took care of business in the first half. Basically put on cruise control. There are a lot. Again, this is another one of those games where we didn't know the roster until after because it was just that's how coaches are, especially after training camp. You don't know who's on the team. There was a lot of guys on that roster that had numbers that didn't correlate to the stuff I had. But I look at it overall. Idaho is a team that they have a history of winning. They know how to win, especially over in the other league they were playing in. And I expect them to be a team that can do that this year. They have a lot of good talent, a good attendance. But one thing I have to say, the real MVP of that preseason game was the color commentator. I was literally amazed. The guys sound just like Pat McAfee, so it was pretty entertaining. Matt, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the color commentator, very entertaining. Impressed with the crowd, like you said, in Idaho, because in an area like that, you never know what you're going to get with the crowd, and that was one thing we saw last year in the CIF with the beef, where Gillette always had really good crowds, and so Idaho. I'm glad to see that Idaho had a really good crowd on Saturday night, and I hope that just continues because the talent level of teams that's coming in there is going to obviously be quite a bit better than what they're used to out there. So hopefully the fans will still keep coming and supporting that team out there because that's going to be a big deal for them.
Yeah, and of course, you look at Idaho. They took care of business, 57-14 over the Sentinels, and you kind of expect that preseason. They're an outdoor team coming indoors and adjusting in the last minute to get ready for the game. But good win. It's always good to get a win in front of your home crowd. It gets the fan base jazzed to come to another home game because they got a big one this Saturday night as they host the Carolina Cobras. So that's going to be a game that most likely it's not going to be crucial. It's always good to start the season with a win, but you got a team that in the NAL's time frame has won a lot and won championships in the NAL. So that's going to be a marquee win for Idaho if they can get it. But Idaho, I love the energy from the color commentators and the guys in the booth. And of course, when games are one sided, if you have good booth guys, it makes the game go freely, smooth. You go freely, yeah, whatever. Let's
Yeah.
continue. Third game on Sunday night was in Fort Collins, Colorado, where the Colorado Spartans took care of Northern Colorado. I think they were the Warriors or the Ninjas or something like that. But this game was completely, as you see the score on the screen, if you're listening to the podcast platform, 70-12. Colorado takes care of business. It was a little scrappy early in the game where the two of the teams were trying to figure out each other. Then after that, you could tell that Colorado's experience in the arena / indoor rules took over the game, and their defense locked down everybody from Northern Colorado. And you saw a lot of players on Colorado make a lot of plays. And one thing I want to say about Colorado, one thing about Coach Shaw, he will find not just one, not just two, but a whole squad of guys you've never even heard of. And he's going to win a lot of ball games for them. I expect that from Colorado this season as well. And I look at this game and I'm just pretty amazed that this team, again, the attendance impressed me. That's a good sign for me. Like, yeah, this team has something here. They get some wins, get that fan base jazz. You'll get more people in that arena. They get a week off to start the season before they get their regular season going here in a couple of weeks. But you get a big win, 70-12 in front of your home crowd. Gives you a good little juice in the tank for the regular season. And you sit back and relax and watch the other guys play in week one. And then you get ready for week two to kick off your season. So big win for Coach Shaw. Decisive win. I like their QB. He is going to be dynamic. He has that gunslinger mentality that we knew that Shaw likes. Even I like Whitaker again. He's another quarterback that I was like, man, they got two good dudes that if they are in the take the helm they're going to win a lot of ball games this year because of their quarterbacks. And again, you need quarterbacks in the NAL. You need quarterbacks in the indoor game and arena game, and they have two guys that I feel very highly confident in for a Colorado team that can be very dangerous, as you can say. What's your observation on them, Matt?
Yeah, you watch a guy like Skelton who came in there. I loved the fact that they talked about his history, right? Because I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
familiar with him, and so their color commentator and their play-by-play guy did a great job of talking about their history. So he was a three-time um, Bayou Classic MVP, like 3 times in a row, and so that was pretty cool down at Southern University. Dude is an athlete, like seriously, like he is the type of guy that you like to see or that you usually see in indoor football. I kind of liken him to McNear, James McNear, that used to play for the Beef all those years ago, who was the guy who could run around the field. He could do everything with his feet, with his arms, whatever. But like, I was also really impressed with Whitaker too. So I think, Coach Shaw is going to have a really tough decision there on who he's going to start at quarterback, because, those are both great guys there. I think the edge, in my opinion, probably goes to Skelton just because of his athleticism. But I mean, that doesn't take anything away from Whitaker or anything like that. And then obviously, Troy Evans Jr. is doing Troy Evans Jr. things. So I mean, there's not much we can say other than that.
Yeah, I'm saying that Colorado, they have a sneaky roster. Just saying. Just the only issues with this past game is that you had numbers on jerseys and you had no names connected to those numbers, so you had no idea who was who. But one thing I do like about Coach Shaw is that he gets his guys ready. And if people look at the NAL and go, "Oh, Colorado's not going to be a team to worry about," and if you're that type of mentality, you're going to get a loss or two or three from that
Yeah.
Colorado team, because
Yeah.
Coach Shaw knows how to get a squad together. But again, the final scores this past weekend: Colorado won 70-12, Sioux City 49-14, and Idaho 57-14 to wrap up preseason week 1 of the National Arena League. This weekend, we have 3 matchups. We have the start off the weekend on Saturday night. Excuse me. Carolina travels to Idaho at 8:00 p.m. Mountain Time, and Oklahoma Flying Aces take on Sioux City Bandits at 7:00 Central Time. And on Sunday, the matinee, Tri-City Tritons take on the Omaha Beef. I don't know why I want to call you guys Oklahoma Beef for some odd reason, but because we just talked about the Oklahoma Fly Aces. Calm down now. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk about this week's games, who we predict. We're doing something a little fun here on the Inside the Walls podcast. Me and Matt will be doing a secretly, we'll post it up before the season starts. We're doing a 5-on-5 fantasy football team, just NAL people, and we're going to see who wins. And he has a championship belt. I have a championship belt. So every week, who wins the matchup, they have the right to hold the belt on the episode for the next week's episode. Follow that on we're going to have it on Reels probably, and some of our Instagram stuff. It's going to be small, little gimmicky stuff to, make the episode more entertaining. And of course, it gives more of a spotlight to the players. Next week's show, we'll have a special guest joining next week, so we'll keep an eye out on that. So, prediction shows.
Hey, Jim, before we jump into the prediction shows, can I share another takeaway that I had from the weekend?
Go ahead.
The NAL teams have some really cool uniforms. Like, seriously, that was one of the big things that I took away. So you look at Sioux City. For years, Sioux City has had the black jerseys with the black numbers with the white outlines. This year they came out and they're rocking those white jerseys with the red sleeves. I know they got black jerseys with red sleeves. Say what you will about the color red, which is not one of my favorites, but those uniforms are slick. I really like them. And I really liked Colorado's uniforms too, with the mixed letters that went from like white to gold or whatever it was. And then I honestly really thought that the Horseman uniforms were really cool as well.
Well, do we win championships on beauty contest, or do we win championships on the field?
No, we don't. But I just had to share that, in an age where
yeah.
we care about what uniforms look like, they were pretty cool this weekend.
Oh, trust me, we know in college sports, teams, equipment managers post like, here's the combo. But you're an Iowa Hawkeye fan, so it's basically the same three colors each week: black helmet, black jersey, yellow pants.
Yep.
It's basically what the Hawkeyes wear almost every week, it seems like.
Yeah, we're definitely not Oregon where we can have like a different uniform combination every game for 5 years. So
they have 87 different combinations each year. That's ridiculous how many combinations they can have in jerseys. But anyways, we're not going to talk about Oregon
right,
Ducks. This
right,
is not the inside the college football podcast. That would be no. That's too much football to cover.
right.
But usually in previous editions of Inside the Walls, when we did predictions, we did our power rankings, and we did like, this is who we think we're going to make the playoffs. This is who we think is going to win the championship. And we get a lot of banter back and forth from a lot of fans and players. So I decided to do a little bit different. We have a couple categories that me and Matt decided on. We did Dark Horse. Dark Horse is a team that can win it all. They can get into the playoffs and win it all. It doesn't matter what seed they're in. The team that has the most pressure, meaning who's the team you think they should win the championship, so they have the most pressure, or they should, a team that's historically in the playoffs, they have the most pressure to get in. So we have the most pressure. Then we have the wild card. The wild card team is that team that's a term that I used in the NAL a lot last year, was in the muck. Means they're in the bottom of the tier of the standings, and they find a way to get into the playoffs as that 4 seed. That's the wild card. And also, in the last category we do is called the championship game, where we will pick the 2 teams that we selected to get into the NAL championship game at the end of the season. We're not going to predict the winners. We did that last year. We got a lot of blowback. We did power rankings. We got a lot of blowback. We're not going to do any power rankings. We're going to do something a little fun, a little different this time around, the predictions show. And the first category we're going to do is none other than the Dark Horse Team of the Year for me. Matt, we just mentioned them earlier. For me, I look at the coaching experience of all the teams, and I look at what he's brought on to the team. And the team I select for Dark Horse Team of the Week or Team of the Year is the Colorado Spartans and Coach Shaw. Reason why is because I followed Coach Shaw the last 2 years in the NAL when he did in San Antonio. Had a lot of guys 2 years ago in San Antonio that was, you could say, entering the NAL, was in Justin from another league to the NAL. He found a way to, it took him a hard time earlier in the year, but he found a way to win games later in the year to be competitive and win Coach of the Year. I love the quarterback duo that they have there, and I love the receivers that Colorado has. I think they're the type of team that just can't make the playoffs. I think they're a team that can literally win the whole thing. That's why I have the Dark Horse Team of the Year is Colorado. Matt, who is your Dark Horse team of 2024?
Yeah, that you made a great pick. We'll be revisiting. I feel like that here sometime in the near few minutes or whatever. But
Probably.
my dark horse team is a team that I have a lot of experience watching. I have a lot of knowledge of, and so I chose the Sioux City Bandits as my dark horse team for 2024. The Bandits are what they are. They're just always a team that's going to go out there and leave everything on the field. The guys like Bruno and Prohaska and, and Mintz and Spahn and Lowenstein or whoever their quarterback is, it's just one of those teams with Coach Strobing and Coach Loban at the helm of them that's just gonna, they're gonna be able to go out there and they're gonna compete. And I really feel like they have a team that looks like on paper right now that they could definitely compete for a league championship.
So you have Sioux City, your arch rival, being the dark horse. You guys
as
did
hard as
have
it is to say.
history. But I'm impressed. I'm impressed. People call you biased. I'm impressed. I'm just saying. So, most pressure team for 2024. This is a team that either they have to make the playoffs, or they have to win. It's win championship or bust. what team has the most pressure. My most pressure team of 2024 is the Carolina Cobras. Here's a reason why I think they have the most pressure. They have been to four straight championship games in the National Arena League. They have gotten to the championship back to back, four straight years. Back to back years they lost. They lost to the Albany Empire 2 years ago and lost to the Jacksonville Sharks last year in a nail biter. This year, they bring back a lot of the players that were on that team last year. But the question I have for them is their quarterback. Even though DJ Myers' brother, Guy Myers, is a starting quarterback, he needs to rely on all of his weapons. And they have some weapons on that team. Kendrick Ings, James Summers, to just name a few dudes. They have dudes all over the field. I think the most pressure is on the Carolina Cobras this year to win the NAL because they've been there four straight years. They've won one in 2018, but losing streak for the championship game. Carolina, most pressure of the season for me to win it all. They have to win it all, in my opinion. They have the most pressure entering the 2024 season. Matt?
Yeah, and this might surprise some people just because of what they know about me, but my choice for 2024 for the team with the most pressure is the Omaha Beef. The biggest thing for me was, the Omaha Beef had a great offseason, obviously, and they're coming off of an undefeated season. And in any level of sports, it's unheard of to be able to continue that kind of a momentum and that kind of a swing. Now, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be the Omaha Beef team that's led by Coach Mike Tatum and Coach Knight. Those guys, they're bringing back a lot of guys offensively from last season. They're bringing back a few defensively as well, but they did lose some pieces on defense. But, they've got a lot of pressure on their shoulders in that they are the only team in this league that is undefeated coming into the season. And I talk to every single one of those guys weekly, sometimes daily even. Every single one of them has the mentality of like, we're here to win a championship again. But they also know that it's not going to be easy. And so I feel like the Beef of all the teams in this league have the most pressure because they have that undefeated mark on them and they have that target on their backs that all those other teams are looking at going, they spent the last year talking about how good they were, comparing themselves to other teams, including Carolina. And now they have the opportunity to prove just how good they are. With Tommy Armstrong coming back as the league MVP from the CIF last year, and like I said, a lot of our offensive starters, I think we're going to have a good shot. But again, I feel like the Beef have the most pressure going into 2024.
You have, well, as a fan, you have more of a fan side of things, perspective of things. And I can see that. It's like me with the Sharks. I hold my team to a very high standard. Sometimes, as fans, we know that our teams may not be as good as years past, depending on what sport it is: NFL, NBA, NHL, college football. We can look at it, go, well, it's FSU, it's Iowa, it's national championship or bust, and we know not every year it's like 6-6 or 8-4, or 9-3. But as fans, we put that in our minds like, oh, it's championship or bust. That's it.
Right.
It has to be. And I see the perspective you got with Omaha because you're a fan. You know what your organization has done recently. So the pressure to continue it to the next season is highly warranted. That's the Omaha Beef. That's why your organization's been around for 25 plus years. It's because you win. Winning sustains longevity. You're the Beef. So another category that we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is called the wild card. This is a team that we think can sneak into the playoffs, probably a 4 or a 3 seed. They can be that team that can be, 500 throughout the year, couldn't win the games early, but managed to get on that win streak towards the end of this year and sneak into that 4 spot or that 3 spot. The wild card teams. And one of the teams I want to shed some light on is a team I think has great potential because I believe in their quarterback, and that's Dylan Van Boxel of the Oklahoma Flying Aces. And the reason why is because Dylan played in Topeka last year. That offense was very explosive, even though they couldn't win a lot of games last year. But one thing, there are guys on this Oklahoma team that you got Zay Davis, you got Langford. I think they have, I want to say Rashad Ridley signed too. So they got some studs that are coming into um, Oklahoma. And one of the things that I like about Oklahoma, they brought Derek's. I think this was it Statham. Yeah, what's his first name? Statham.
Draco,
Um, Draco.
Draco Statham.
Jacob Statham, not Statham. What the heck am I talking about? Holy crap. Jacob Statham. I like Oklahoma because I think they brought enough experience on the defensive side of the ball. We haven't seen them do a preseason game or exposition game because they haven't had one yet. So they get right into the business with Sioux City week one. But I really like Dylan Van Boxel. I like how that team is built around him. That's the type of team I look at. They could be at 4 seed in the playoffs. You don't want to play because they're going to be a scrappy little team. There's going to be, in my opinion, it's a team they can't overlook. So I got Oklahoma Flying Aces as my wild card team for the 2024 season.
Yeah, I like that pick. There, I can't disagree with anything you said there. But for me, it came down to the team that I thought was going to be the wild card. We've already talked about them a little bit tonight. I chose the Colorado Spartans. It's no slight to Coach Shaw or anything that he's done, anybody that he's brought in. No slight to that team. I just look at the teams, and I just think that Omaha, Sioux City, and Carolina are just a little bit better than Colorado. Now, the only gauge that I have for that is what I know about those three teams, right? Like I know Carolina's loaded again. I know Omaha's loaded up again from 2023. And I know Sioux City, is loaded as well. I'm not as familiar with some of the guys on the Colorado team. And it's hard to gauge, like what exactly you're going to get from them based on that preseason game because it is what it is, right? They played an outdoor semi-pro team that, who knows how good that team was. I'm not familiar with them, right? But I do know Coach Shaw, and I do know his pedigree and his background, and he's going to have those guys ready to play. Could they be a team that comes into the playoffs at a 3 seed or a 4 seed and makes a run? Absolutely. Which we mentioned earlier, but I just, for me, they were my wild card team because I think there's still enough question marks as far as their roster and kind of what they're going to bring to the table that I just wasn't quite ready to put them in that dark horse category quite yet.
Yeah. But you still think like me, you think they're going to be very competitive and in the postseason, or get in the postseason as a 4 or 3 and be very competitive. So, hey.
Yeah. But I also think that, I also think that Oklahoma is going to be competitive. I think that the Horsemen are going to be competitive. I think that this is going to be one of the best NAL seasons that we've had in a long time. And I think that all of these teams are going to be out there and have competitive teams on the field. So,
all right. Well, one thing about prediction shows, sometimes you got to preview the inevitable, the championship game of this year season, the 2024 championship game. I have two teams that I think one I've already mentioned earlier about having a little bit pressure. The other may stun people. And the team that I pick is the Sioux City Bandits taking on the Carolina Cobras for the championship in 2024. The reason why Carolina, in my opinion, has the most pressure, but they've been here. They have done that. They have the most experience out of everybody of getting to the championship game. This is basically their territory, and all these other teams are joining their league. So it's their house, basically. Other teams have to beat them. And I look at this year, and if I can imagine my playoff bracket, if you see what my playoff bracket, just imagine it, ladies and gentlemen. Carolina, I just said Oklahoma was going to be in there. So that means Omaha was in there too. So Carolina, Oklahoma City, Sioux City, Omaha. I have Sioux City upsetting Omaha in the first round of the playoffs. Ouch, Matt. But anyways, I'm not going to say, hey. I'm doing it for entertainment, man. I'm doing it for entertainment. Calm down now. I like Sioux City. I just think like they've been there. They have done it. Same as Omaha, same as Carolina. I think the playoffs, in my opinion, once we get there, is going to be whoever's in there, anyone can win it. And coin flip, I said Sioux City. I know I might be the hayes person on Omaha right now, but I do apologize. But I think the championship game for me is the Carolina Cobras taking on the Sioux City Bandits. Again, I'm not predicting the championship game because we're not doing that this year. I just think that's my two teams I think will be playing for the title this season. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, we're all entitled to our own opinion. I went in a very similar way, except not quite as similar. So, I mean, say what we want. Carolina is one of the cream of the crop teams, in my
Hmm.
opinion, in the NAL. They've been around for a long time in the National Arena League. And then I obviously chose the Omaha Beef to be in the championship as well. So I think we're going to see the Carolina Cobras and the Omaha Beef. What's really unique and interesting about that for me is those two teams kind of bookend each other's seasons, if you think about it, right? Because Carolina hosts Omaha in week 2 of the season, technically week 2, week 1 of the regular season ish for Omaha. It is the week 1 game, right? And then the last game of the regular season is also Omaha and Carolina in Omaha on June 8th. So, we're going to get to see Carolina twice. I just really think that those are the two teams that are going to come out as the top dogs. I said earlier I could see Sioux City, making a run to the championship. But if they did make the championship, I would hope it would be against the Beef, because that rivalry in a championship game is always top notch.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure if fans are aware of this, but Omaha has actually been to 3 straight championship games if you go back to the Champions Indoor Football League, and they've won 2 out of those 3. So yeah, I mean, Omaha's right there with Carolina, in my opinion. So
So that is our predictions. I know it's kind of weird predictions. Championship game, wild card. Want to do something different because I've seen a lot of other shows that cover this industry. They do just a bunch of power rankings, and want to do something that and they shed some light. Now we didn't talk about Idaho. I know they're like, hey, you didn't mention us in this. It's kind of like for me personally, I just full warning Idaho fans before you jump on me. There was a team last year I didn't even acknowledge in the NAL for most of the year. They kind of shut me up. They went to the playoffs last year and almost won. That was the San Antonio Gunslingers. They did their job. You have a chance to do your job. But again, big fan of the opening weekend, opening preseason. That's our fun thing. Who do you think is going to be the championship game for the National Arena League? Leave your comments below. We like to hear your opinions on who you think, if me or if Matt's wrong, or if it's Idaho versus Oklahoma. Who
yeah.
knows? Put it
Yeah,
down.
and I mean, I definitely want to reiterate, like, there's no slight to Idaho or anything like that from my end either. For me, it's one of those things where, again, like you said, I mean, you got to prove it, right? I mean, there's a perception of who Idaho is and what they are coming in, and that's fine. I think they could be competitive as well. We talked about that earlier. So, I mean, it's going to be a fun season for the National Arena League, no matter what.
You want to talk about some games this weekend, my friend?
Absolutely.
All right, let's start off with your game because this is the last preseason game so far. There are a couple more later in the year. But the Tri-City Tritons go to Omaha Beef on Sunday matinee to be 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central. What do you should the fans of Omaha know about the opponent this weekend, Matt?
Yeah, the opponent this weekend is the Tri-City Tridents. They come in from the Central Plains Football League, which is actually an 8-man outdoor league. So they're a little familiar with the rule set of indoor football. They've actually played before. I think it was last season. They played an exhibition game against the Sioux City Bandits. They're going to come in and try to kind of show that they've got some guys who can play. I don't know if they're going to have any dogs or beasts or whatever it was that guy in Idaho was saying, but they're going to come and they're going to give it their all. I'm 100% sure of it. But the Beef. I mean, the Beef are going to come out there and they're going to put on a show. I'm 100% sure that brand new orange turf is going to be rocking, and we're going to have a great time there in the slaughterhouse with that new rebound net system and everything. I saw a picture of it today. It was up in the arena. I was really excited. I can't wait to see that on Sunday when it's all up there. So yeah, but Tri-City, they're gonna come and give it their all, but they're just not. I mean, they're not gonna have enough. I'm sorry, they're just not.
Well, I'm not going to make a prediction in this game.
Right.
We've seen other three matchups this week, four against outdoor, semi-pro, other leagues. They're being rushed to learn a game in such short time. while teams like Omaha, Sioux City, Idaho, and Colorado have know what game they're playing because these players played the sport in the arena style. So the first game we'll talk about in week 1 is the Carolina Cobras traveling to the Idaho Horsemen. Um, it's going to be a kind of intriguing matchup. And I know there's a couple of people out there that want to talk about how a new team like Idaho can rebound. Even I know it's not really like a rebound type of situation from the preseason game, but Carolina doesn't have a preseason game, but they're fully loaded with a bunch of dudes that have NAL arena indoor experience. Idaho played out in the AWFC last season, and play against a couple of teams that you could say from a Carolina perspective, a little downgrade, maybe not as equal par to the Carolina Cobras. This game is going to be unique for the Idaho Horsemen. How you played last week's game, you need to keep that energy up the entire game against Carolina. Carolina has weapons everywhere. They basically have two number one receivers in Adam Smith and Kendrick Ings. They basically are the two kickoff returners as well. They have a kicker who probably will lead the league in deuces this year, and Ryan Weber. Carolina is a threat in this game. It's going to take early because Carolina didn't have a warm up game like Idaho did. So Idaho, you have to take on Carolina, who has to travel out there to. Excuse me, my headset. Sorry, popping for a second. Carolina has to travel to Idaho over in Boise. It's going to be kind of an interesting game. Very interesting game. Here's the reason why. Travel for Carolina to Idaho is going to be, that's a long trip. You're going over 3 time zones. The experience of Carolina they bring benefits them, in my opinion. I think Idaho has enough of players, has enough of a team that could be very competitive. I just don't see Idaho winning this game to start the season. Again, it's because I think Carolina, in my opinion, has the most pressure of the year. But I like the coaching staff, that defense. There's key guys on that defense that people need to know in Idaho. Drew Powell is his last name. Joe Powell is his last name, and Fitzgerald. Those guys are going to just be dogs. They are dogs. Just giving you a heads up, Idaho. Carolina is the team to beat, most likely, for what me and Matt will have said over previous episodes. In this game, Idaho, strike early, force turnovers, keep the scoring down low. If not, this could be a one-sided affair. Carolina is that good of a team this year. I like Carolina, and I like them possibly by 2 scores in this one to kick off the 2024 season with a win. Got Carolina. Matt?
Yeah, dogs, beasts, bad men, all of that. Cobras have all of it. Like I said earlier, Idaho has a lot to prove in this game, so they could completely prove us wrong. But I just feel like the edge in this one goes to the Carolina Cobras, despite having to travel across country. So I'm also picking Carolina to win this one. I'm not going to pick any kind of predictions or by how many because I'm terrible at that. But I think Carolina walks out with that. So,
oh, come on. Pick the score, any score.
I'll say
there's your score. There you go.
Yeah. Either way, it's going to be entertaining.
Okay. The second game of the slate for week 1 of the NAL season, we head back to Sioux City and to the Tyson Arena, or Tyson Civic Center, excuse me, as the Sioux City Bandits host the Flying Aces of Oklahoma. This game is unique. I put Oklahoma on a pedestal earlier this episode, but I like Sioux City. One of the stats I found that's pretty interesting from Sioux City in their history, they have over a 800% winning percentage in home openers. So every 10 home games to start off the season, they've won 8. That's impressive. They have started the last 3 seasons on winning streaks. Last year, they started with a 5-game winning streak. 2 years ago, they started with a 4-game winning streak. They know how to get out of the gate with dubs. It's in Sioux City. It's going to be a madhouse. The place is going to be packed. I like Dylan Van Boxel, his experience with Oklahoma. They're going to Sioux City. They didn't have a warm-up game. I like Sioux City in this matchup. I like it early, Sioux City, with the experience, with already having that game under their belt, and I see them winning this game. Actually, a closer, as words of Lee Corso, closer than the experts predict. But problem is, I think we're the only experts that do the NAL there, Matt. I like Sioux City in here because I look at Sioux City's roster. They're loaded again. Like it's impressive. I'm looking at their roster right now, and there's 10 guys that no 12 about 12 guys that have been on that roster. It seems like for decades. It's like every time you see a Sioux City runner, like that dude was in there when I was in high school. How's he still playing? That's how long it seems like that team is loaded with. I think Sioux City has more right now. They have more experience of guys around them, and then Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is going to be that young team that, again, I mentioned they're my wild card to make the playoffs as a 4. I think Oklahoma's that team that comes out of the gate struggling, but finishes strong. I think Bandits start the season solid and stay solid throughout the year. I like the Bandits here in a close one, closer than the experts predict. But I think this is going to be one of the most exciting and entertaining games from week 1 in Sioux City. So give me the Bandits in this game against the Oklahoma Aces.
Yeah, that was great. Oklahoma's got some players. I almost never pick Sioux City in pick'ems just because it's Sioux City. But despite that, I think I got to go with the Bandits in this one. They're at home, like you said, in their home openers. They're something like 800% or something, or 800% winning percentage or whatever it is. The Tyson Event Center is going to be rocking on Saturday night. I just know that because I know that fan base, and I know that they're gonna rock out for those guys. And I just think, you look at it, you mentioned it, right? You got Mintz, you got Span, you got Prohaska, you got Bruno, you got Lowenstein, all those guys, they've all got the experience. And I think that ultimately Sioux City pulls away at the end and maybe wins by a couple, 2-3 scores. They just pull away at the end and they just make it interesting at the end. But I will say this: Draco Statham for Oklahoma comes in having the last 2 seasons led the CIF in interceptions. So that's a player to watch out for on defense for Oklahoma for sure.
And I can't believe I butchered his name earlier. That's who I was thinking of. I feel bad for Draco. My bad, Draco. I apologize. I butchered his name badly. And also to these Sioux City fans, sorry, I do know it's the Tyson Event Center. I think I said Civic Center. There's so many arenas to cover in this sport. They change their name every single year. It's ridiculous. So hold me some slack. I think I offended every fan base today. I think I did a good job.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what I do. That's what Jim does. But I don't mean don't mean to do it, but I do apologize. You can email us your complaints. Our email address is at nwallsnetwork@gmail.com. It will be directed to the spam folder, so I won't get a chance to read it. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, coverage of the National Arena League begins this Saturday at 7 o'clock Central Time when the Oklahoma Flying Aces take on the Sioux City Bandits. 8:10 Central Mountain Time is Idaho and Carolina. So for the folks in Greensboro, you got a late game for you boys. I think it's a 9 o'clock kickoff East Coast time. I think that's the time, or almost 10. So if you're a true arena football fan and you're in Carolina, you're dedicated watching that game that late. Of course, Sunday afternoon, I think all the games will be streamed. All the games were streamed last week, so I believe all the games are streamed. One thing I'm most looking forward to this weekend is that wins do matter this weekend in 2 of the games. Another one, I want to see how much I can get blinded by a field. We've seen red fields. We've seen blue fields. We've seen all black fields. We've seen white fields. Now this is an orange field. It's going to be unique to see how that plays with the cameras for the YouTube streams for this weekend. And to the fans of the National Arena League, remember to get all your information of updated news from the National Arena League at nationalarenaleague.com. Or also Follow us at NWalls Pod and NWalls Network as we get updated information from the sources of the people inside the National Arena League. Me and Matt have a saying: if we haven't said it, then it's not factual. Until we say it, or until the National Arena League says it, then you know it's real. Don't believe the Facebook warriors that say they have inside sources, because right now I can say that I'm undefeated because a lot of these sources tell the wrong things. But again, for more information, go to nationalarenaleague.com. National Arena League Facebook, Instagram. I do think they have a TikTok. I don't know. May have to ask. We don't have a TikTok. I'm not doing the TikTok. I'm sorry. That's just too many
No.
apps. Remember, you can follow Inside the Walls Network on Caffeine TV, on Rumble, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on X. I'm on everything. You know where we're at. As coverage of the National Arena League will continue throughout this season. Next week, we have a special guest joining us to talk about the National Arena League and also talk about how his team performed in week one. The announcement of that player will be revealed on Monday on all of our social media platforms here on nationalarenaleague.com, Facebook page, and of course, Inside the Walls Network and Inside the Walls Pod. Also, I'm going to put another plug in. Sorry, Matt. Inside the Walls Network has multiple shows now. Come follow. We cover a lot of the indoor game, including this guy's podcast. It's some cut prime thing steak show.
The Prime Cuts of Omaha Beef podcast. This Friday, we're going to be having our guest running back Jeff Mack at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. A new day, a new time, but it's going to be a great episode. Tune in live.
And you can follow that on I'm Omaha Beefs podcast Facebook page, their social media, your Twitter, and also Inside the Walls Network live stream as well. Maybe on Facebook. We may put it on Facebook this week. So you get multiple coverages of your favorite teams. And of course, Inside the Walls podcast here every Wednesday. New time, ladies and gentlemen. We're moving the show to 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. So you guys have a best chance to cover the show. We will not have another episode this week. New format of the show compared to last year. I know a lot of people was like, oh, we got rebound and we got kickoff. We're not going to do multiple shows this year. How the show went this day. Preview, talk about the week, talk about the games, probably an interview, our show in and out throughout the 2024 season. Condense, fast, let's go. You might see pop-up things on Reels, might be during game weeks. Might have live streams from inside the Beef Kingdom with Matt when he's there on scene. You might get some instant reaction stuff from us if we have a chance to. Even stay tuned. We might even actually have watch-along parties when certain teams are on the road, especially the Beef probably. And we'll just talk about NAL football. Watch us, watch two grown men watching a freaking laptop. But we're also watching NAL action throughout the week. But remember, all the notifications will be on Inside the Walls podcast and Inside the Walls Network on all social media platforms. Matt, before we leave, plug all your stuff, man. Or did we do more plugging? Are we good?
Yeah, we're good, but Prime Cuts podcast is at PRM Cuts Pod on X, Twitter, whatever they call that thing now. We're on.
It changes names just like arenas. It changes every single week. The new name.
Yep. It folds, it comes back. It folds, it comes back. Yeah, it's weird. So, but yeah, follow us there. Follow us on the network. Follow us on the Omaha Beef Facebook page, and just keep watching for all of our awesome content.
All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you have an enjoyable week. Next week we'll come back with some great interview and break down week one action and preview week two. The NAL season is finally here. Keep your eyes on the National Arena League social media. It is going to be popping here pretty soon. I got to tip my hat to the individuals that are associated. We can't mention those people, but we can mention Steven Shatola, tip our hat to him. We got a lot of great content coming out over the next couple of weeks during the regular season. And then again, we're season 3 of the National Arena League, and you're watching us here on Inside the Walls Network, the official podcast, Inside the Walls podcast, the official podcast of the National Arena League. That's Matt. I'm Jim. This has been episode 137. Enjoy the weekend. Matt, be safe. Don't get too crazy. I know it's a home game.
I'm not making any promises.
Don't get too crazy. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, be safe. Have a nice weekend. And of course, well, put your hand down. It's not go beef, man. What are you talking about? That's you do that at your show. Catch a show on
Oh,
Friday night.
my
Last.
bad. I got confused. Sorry about that.
That's why we're going to end the show. Catch a show Friday night. Friday night. I'm Jim. That's Matt. This is Inside the Walls podcast, episode 137. Good night, folks.